Hi everyone, I hope you're well. This is CoinsKid. Just going to take XRP once again. Thank you for support. Okay, be the CoinsKid crew. So if you've been a follower of the channel for a very long time, you'll know that one thing I don't do on this channel is buy big green candles because you get big red dildos. For example, when XRP was breaking out late last year, I said if you buy now, you're doing it wrong. You should have been buying all the blood, fear and depression and the buy signals that I was presenting to you on the channel. Okay, not necessarily up here where we're in the sky, because you get that overextension. And there's a saying, bulls make money, bears make money, pigs get slaughtered. Okay, so we can have our targets and expectations and forecasts and things like that, but they can be invalidated, so this is why you won't get me buying when things are breaking out and printing big green candles. What I like to do is buy blood, fear and depression of a downtrend. And one of the key things I look at with yourselves for many years is really simple. It's the same signal that we saw on Bitcoin in 2023. Early 2023 was really simple. You're under the 20-week EMA, okay? You've got resistance, 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 resistance. You get your close above, expect to run to the 55. And this was a trade that I presented to you on ZEC in late 2023, and that trade played out on ZEC, okay? It ran up into the 55, got rejected, came back down. And we're seeing that right now with ICP. A lot of people are getting FOMO-y and, saying this, that, and the other with ICP, but it's doing exactly what ZEC did. It's coming down, rejected off its 20, coming back down, closed above its 20, and it's run to the 55, and it's currently seeing a rejection at 55 EMA. So again, this is the opportunities that I present to you. If you're buying things that are taking off into space, you're doing it wrong. You're taking on risk, okay? You buy the blood, fear and depression, the bullish divergence, the fact that you're coming down for a very long time against the 20, you get your close, you're putting in a nice little statement. Way back here, we got the buy signal in late 2023 on ZEC, come back up, held the high low and broke to the 55. So they're the opportunities, they're the things that I look for in the channel with yourselves. And I've created an index that shows us those opportunities. But one thing I'm coding right now is the EMA gap. I'm looking for signals that, the wider the gap to the downside or to the upside, the higher the probability of the short, if it's trending up, or obviously the long if it's trending down. And one key thing we're looking for is to close above that key resistance, which is a 20-week EMA. So let's take a look at the charts, because I think for with XRP, I think we've just been in this sideways consolidation for over a year. So let's take a look, okay? So quickly before I do dive into the charts for yourselves, I just want to give you an update on the LD. You can clearly see that big spike up has led to this big drop. And like I've always taught you, whenever you see big spikes up like that, expect some kind of drop, and we got that in the week basically. So this time last week on Friday, I did put out a post to the CoinsKid crew in the Discord. I expect a dump come Monday, and we got exactly that. So right now we're coming back down, and as you can clearly see on this low here, what we've seen is a drop basically in liquidity where it's coming back into the market. So as we're starting to pump a little bit, you are seeing the LD present that, and the LD basically is not a lagging indicator, it's a leading indicator. And one thing you can look at is this target here. Every single day we get this coming around about 6 o'clock. It will tell us, okay, whether or not you're looking at a pump or a dump. If this is negative, expect a pump. And yesterday, past couple of days, this has actually been negative. This is why we've seen this pump. Equally, if it's positive and quite a lot, expect a big dump. And that's exactly what we've got, and something I relayed to you earlier in the year. Now, another indicator I've created for yourselves is called the waves indicator. And I made this a long time ago for the CoinsKid crew. So looking at the waves indicator at the moment, we've got this massive spike up in fear. So these bars represent the fear and greed in the market. And every day since late 2023, I think it is, I've been tracking on the index, I've been tracking the fear and greed in the market on the daily time frame, whether or not, the market's overbought or oversold. Okay, really simple. So we see that every time we're coming down, you see a massive spike up in the, the fear, where your blue and green blocks are outweighing, the buy side, which is the sell side, sorry, which is your greed. So the greed is your yellow and red blocks, your matchsticks, basically. So I think what we've got is a little bit of confidence in this particular chart within itself. This indicator that if we zoom to the left a little bit more, you can clearly see that I think what we've done here, we've peaked in July, okay, for crypto. And what we've been doing since July is coming down the stairs. But I actually think this move up in crypto, XRP, is actually part of a bigger correction that we've been in since late last year, okay? So I'll go through this with you. And I think we can see it within this particular indicator itself, okay? So you can clearly see from that big spike up where your matchstick, look at that, your red and your yellow block is basically spiked up. Look at that, a lot of greed in the market. Wow, look at that, 38% of the market was really, really overbought. Came up a few days later, you've been going sideways, okay? So basically in the summer, I think we saw a massive move, which has basically been bull traps across the board. And the confluence of that is the fact that we've saw, likes of Ethereum, XRP, Bitcoin especially has come up, but we've not seen that in altcoins. So I think what we've got is a very similar situation as to what happened in 2021, where we rolled over in the spring of 2021, came back up in late 2021, and it was a bull trap, basically. I think we've seen the same thing in July off the April low. So I hope you understand what I'm talking about, but this has been an alternative that I've had for a very long time, that if we was to break down for XRP, it would mean the move up is not impulsive. It would mean it's corrective, and we are actually missing a fifth wave. So, it's quite bullish for the setup for the future, but the trouble is right now we've got to try and find the bottom of this correction, haven't we? So what we've got is really simple. I think we've seen a bull trap in the summer. I think the confluence is the tether dominance, and obviously altcoins as well, the likes of Chainlink, Cardano, VeChain, have all come up, made lower highs at that particular point. So as this is rolled over, I think a lot of people are looking at that as an impulsive move for Bitcoin. But I think, that's the wrong thing to look at, because I think that that's not impulsive. If it was impulsive, we would have seen many things go with that impulse, but we didn't. I think from here, we've got a free wave move down, a free wave move up, and right now we're in the sort of end wave of a correction. So we're nearing the end of the correction. We are actually beginning it, in my opinion, because from here we saw this push up, and ever since then, you can clearly see that the fear has been in the market. If this was an impulsive move, it would have been the top of an impulsive move like that. We would have seen a massive spike up in the greed, and we've not seen that. So I actually think this is part of a bull trap. I think this is part of a correction, some kind of a regular correction that Bitcoin's actually been in since July. So if we move to the left, you can clearly see any time we see big spikes up in the fear, which is your blue and green blocks, you do get some kind of buying opportunity in the market, whether or not it's a retracement coming up or whatever. It's always some kind of buying opportunity to just ride a little long up or whatever, make some money. So keep an eye on the waves indicator. You can clearly see it's why I called it waves, because the market moves in waves. So if we move to the left and look at this particular scenario where I think we've peaked last year, if we take a look, this was, when was this? This is all the way back here, okay? So as you can clearly see, we're coming up. Look at this massive spike up. Look at that huge spike up in the greed. And as we come up, this is where we got top heavy, and we've been sort of trending sideways ever since for Bitcoin, in my opinion. So I think we began a correction late last year. We got some kind of A wave down. This was a bull trap, basically, that came up into the summer. So you got some kind of A into a B, and right now you're on a C. I think people looking at this as the top in October are looking at it wrong. I think it's part of a correction, because we never saw that over exuberance in the waves indicator. Okay, and obviously we've seen a lot of altcoins come at that particular time frame and make lower highs. But if you take a look, the macro correction in the markets actually began at that point, because in my opinion, one other indicator that create for yourselves that told us that that was the case, it's called the Dunman indicator. Let's take a quick look at that right now, okay? Because if you take a look, this time last year, it was telling us, okay, correction imminent, and I relayed that to you. So I actually think we saw retail show up to the market at this point last year, and we've been in this sideways consolidation for Bitcoin, for XRP, and many other altcoins, and this move up into the summer has been nothing but a bull trap, okay? So let's dive into the XRP chart, see what we can see, okay? So looking at XRP on the daily time frame, we've got an invalidation point here that XRP from this point, if it starts to roll over and loses this 95,412, it negates this setup that I've been looking at with yourselves as a potential alternative. So my primary for a very long time was from this floor here, we'd see a 1, 2, 3, pull back 4 that will hold this low and then break bull in a expanding leaning diagonal, which finishes off this market the way it started it, basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 finish, and that was my primary. But obviously I have to respect the structure, and in recent times what we saw is the loss of this low on this retracement. So this increased probability that this is a free wave move, not an impulsive move. And I think that the confluence is obviously in the waves indicator, and obviously the tether dominance as well, and many other things. The example is, for example, Chainlink. If you take a look at this point here, Chainlink dropped, come up, made the lower high, but XRP, the over exuberance, has made the higher high with some kind of bull trap. So right now it looks as though we're beginning some kind of correction to the downside from the summer in both charts. We're dropping like this, quite a sharp correction within Chainlink within itself. So what we're looking at from this point, if we are in some kind of C wave or Y wave, we should look for 5 waves to the downside. So we've got some kind of 1 into a 2 into a flush 3, the power 3. Look at that. To lose that low and sweep this low here is a very powerful wave. Come up in some kind of 4 that consolidates like this, and then the final drop would be your 5 wave move. Now the last time we finished a correction off like this was way back here in the summer. So this correction, it's really strange. Our market symmetry may be playing out, and again it may not. This is just simple technical analysis. Please respect that. I've not got a crystal ball. I can't see into the future. But what we've got right now is potential market symmetry at play here, because from the floor in 2023, we began a 5 wave move up, which was beautiful. So way back then, that's where I got incredibly bullish, because if you take a look, this correction finished off in 5 waves equally into that low in January 2023. So from there we saw a beautiful 5-wave impulsive move, then the flag back. So I was incredibly bullish there, okay, because we're getting all the data points. We're getting Bitcoin close above its 20-week EMA. We're getting the the S&P 500 breaking out as well. So incredibly bullish time for me to be back down there in them videos which I relayed to you. I think we've got a beautiful move here for XRP, and minimal target was 82 cents off the floor down there, and it came up. It was beautiful, and we traded that. But anyway, that's all in the past. But one of the increased probabilities of that move coming in was this simple 5-wave move to the downside. It was a counter wave. So from there we saw a 5-wave move up. At this point in the summer we peaked at this level here, which is around about 95,412. So now, right now, that becomes your invalidation point, because what I'm looking at from the floor in 2023, I think XRP has been incredibly bullish. Okay, so we've got a 1 into a sideways 2 into a breakout 3 into a sideways 4 that's potentially bottom relatively soon against all lots of expectations, and then comes out in the final 5th in 2026. And that would basically break all the cycles, the 4-year cycles and cycle theory. And one of the earliest clues to that could simply be the fact that Bitcoin made an all-time high in March of 2024 against the previous all-time highs where it's done that before the halving. So it actually made history in 2024, and it could be one of the earliest signs, okay, this cycle's broken. So what we may have seen for Bitcoin and XRP is an impulse come to a fruition in late 2024, and we saw that with the retail top and obviously a waves indicator as well. We've been rolling over and basically been going sideways ever since, and we've got some kind of corrective overlapping zigzaggy waves, just like this overlapping zigzaggy waves there. You get your final flush towards the end of the correction, and then it's all systems go for another 5-wave move. So this is why I don't necessarily think we've seen the final 5th in this particular chart. I think it's in front of us. So this is why I'm still bullish on XRP, and like I've taught you, if you take a look, higher low, XRP is still making beautiful uptrend macro high-low structure. So again, it's just a little bit of confidence of the fact that I don't necessarily think that this is the beginning of a bear market at this particular point, which is what a lot of people are looking at. I actually think we've been in a correction ever since late last year, early this year for XRP, and we may have a little bit of market symmetry here where Wave 1 lasted 193 days, Wave 3 lasted 193 days, which is basically a 7-month period, and then Wave 2 went for a year-long correction, and Wave 4 may be going for a year-long correction as well. So it would be a case, okay, if that's the case, we could be looking at a beautiful pump early from 2026 into the summer, if we're looking at market symmetry, where this has been a 1 into a 2 into a 3 into a 4 into a final 5th wave, up to the levels above. Where could it go to? That in time will address that, but I think we could be looking at a monster move of roughly $8 for XRP, but it could be completely wrong. So the invalidation, again, just like this invalidation on the retracement lost that low, is really simple. It's your wave 1 high. If we start to see XRP breaking down significantly and losing 0.9412, I'll sell and I'll buy back that God kind of back test just there, and this one just there as well, roughly 55 cents. But that is obviously a little bit of opium going forward. We've got to see the loss of structure for that. So my primary at the moment has changed from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to really simple 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I think we've got this 5th wave missing. There's a potential scenario in 2026 against all odds and expectations, which breaks your 4-year cycle theory. Hope you understand the update. Stay up, stay strong, stay tuned. Take care everyone. Back to an update on XRP. Bye bye.